It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me.
Craig, shut up.
Hey, I need you guys to do these things.
I'm Craig Price, professional bastard. Nice to meet you.
Welcome to Season 3 of Reality Check with Craig Price. I am your host, Craig Price, and just like the end of last season, we're starting up this new year with Alan Cerny and our picks and opinions for the 2013 Academy Awards. Before we jump into our Oscar talk, I wanted to take a second to welcome back our listeners and say thank you for returning. I certainly appreciate it. And I also wanted to say hello to some new ones. If this is your first episode of Reality Check, I want you to know that this podcast is dedicated to learning about new things we've never heard of and hearing new perspectives on more familiar ideas. I try to keep the topics different each week. You'll always learn something new on Reality Check, and that's really the only goal I have. Also new this year, we are part of the Stitcher Network. Stitcher allows you to listen to your favorite shows directly from your iPhone, Android phone, Kindle Fire, and beyond. It's on demand and on the go, anytime and anywhere, now even without Wi-Fi or a cellular connection. I don't know how that works. Apparently it does. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the app stores for your Android phone or iTunes. Stitcher, it's radio on demand. Also, you can find us on our newly designed realitycheckpodcast.com website. Please go and take a look. We have guests available by category now, much easier than it was before. And our comment sections are updated so you can leave feedback and interact like you've never done before in the past. Finally, if you want to bypass all that and get updates on who is on the show, sign up for the newsletter and you will get weekly updates. We are now sending out the newsletter day of to remind you, hey, this is who's on the show this week. So you will be able to make your decision before you even have to download a thing. Facebook, Twitter, yada, yada, yada. This intro is about as long as the Oscars. So let's get to it. Alan Cerny is back. He is the least cynical critic on the interwebs. And this year, it seemed that Alan and I are not on the same page for some of these. Since this interview was recorded, I have seen all of the movies but Amour, which is in limited release here in Houston, and I missed it. And it sounded like it was a depressing story. So I'm glad I didn't miss that one. But I was not impressed with some of the nominations. I think the Academy went on the safe side, and I thought there were some more deserving people. But as you'll hear, Alan likes more of the performances than I did. And just so you'll know, I'll be posting Alan and I's choices on the site, realitycheckpodcast.com, Sunday the 24th, the day of the awards, so you can see how well we did. I'm thinking Alan's going to do much better than I am, but you never know. Well, enough of my ramblings. Let's just skip the song and dance medley I prepared. I was rehearsing all week, but forget about it. And let's get right into our Oscar podcast with Alan Cerny. I thought this year was great. I thought this was a good year. 2012 was a great year for movies. Especially near the end, it built up speed, but then at the end, the quality came out, which is unusual because sometimes some years are really, dead roadkill. But
for me, I thought it started fairly strong. I thought the summer wasn't as strong as it could have been, but it was good. And then once September hit, it was awesome all the way through.
And I thought there was a lot of early ones, and we talked about this in our holiday special. That the September was exceptional. I thought September, October was more exceptional than usual.
Yeah, it was really good all the way to the finish.
And then this year, it seemed like they packed quality stuff in at Christmas to New Year's. So it was like almost like you couldn't see everything.
No, you couldn't.
That came out.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even get to. I saw almost everything, but I haven't even seen Amour yet. So and it just opened here in town, I think, this weekend.
In Houston, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And, of course, that's the familiar voice of Alan Cerny, Nordling on Ain't It Cool News. We are going to talk about Oscars. It's this weekend. We have to be able to time this just perfect. That I was going to wait until the podcast premiere later in beginning of March, but the Oscars coming out is just perfect that you're here. So let's go run through like we did last year. We're going to run through, and we're going to start with Best Supporting Actor.
Okay.
And this is a very unusual category this year because every single person that I'm about to tell you has an Oscar, not a nomination, has an actual Oscar at home.
Right.
So we got Christoph Waltz for Django Unchained, and I Unchained. I still want to say to Django. I keep calling it to Django.
Silent.
I know. But Philip Seymour Hoffman for The Master, Robert De Niro, who hasn't been in this category for a while,
No.
in Silver Linings Playbook, Alan Arkin for Argo, and Tommy Lee Jones in Lincoln. Right off the bat, who do you love in this category? Right off the bat,
man, they're all good to great. I guess the weakest link in this one actually for me is Robert De Niro, because Silver Linings Playbook I wasn't overly excited about. It's a good movie. I don't think it's Oscar movie, but it's a good movie. It's entertaining. And, De Niro has been out of it for a long time.
He's been Falking.
Yeah.
Is what he's been doing.
Yeah.
he's been doing all the Falker stuff.
You've been waiting to say that.
No, actually that one I was like, what? He's been doing that. He's been doing other stuff.
Yeah.
It seems like the last year or two.
Well, there's nothing out there as transcendently awesome as Rocky and Bullwinkle, but then what is?
But it seems like the last 2 years, he's picked up his game a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
And mostly because of Bradley Cooper. He was in that drug movie,
Limitless, which I dug actually.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job in that.
Yeah.
He did one where he wasn't he like a schizophrenic homeless author who's
Being Flynn. Being Flynn. He was even in Machete.
Yeah, but he was doing a good work in there.
He was
like Al Pacino. He's been getting better.
It's almost weirdly enough like he said himself. Because for the longest time, De Niro was considered the greatest actor of all time, or at least of that generation. And then he did some. Not stinkers, but he definitely started playing towards a mainstream audience.
Second home movies.
Yeah.
He was paying off something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, he kind of went back under the radar again. And now it's almost like he's like, let's see if I can...
It's a renaissance.
Let me see if I have a second act to my career here. But he's pretty good. I liked him in the movie. I didn't think it was Oscar material, but he's pretty good. This is a tough category otherwise, because all of them are outstanding in their parts.
Well, I do have some exceptions that I wanted to get to, because I wanted to see what your opinion was overall.
Uh-huh.
But De Niro, I haven't seen that one, so I don't know. But actually, I've actually seen all the other ones.
Uh-huh.
And I have two problems with Alan Arkin and Tommy Lee Jones.
Okay.
Because they play Alan Arkin and Tommy Lee Jones. I thought they were great.
Uh-huh.
And I think that with certain actors, you hire them to be themselves.
Yeah.
And I think Tommy Lee Jones was a grumpy, kind of goofy prick, so to speak, in Lincoln, and guess what Tommy Lee Jones is like, as we saw at the Golden Globes.
Right.
And Alan Arkin.
That was I love that at the Golden Globes. That face he made is just all over the internet now.
And Alan Arkin, I didn't think he was. I don't think he was. He was Alan Arkin. He is what you expect to see. I didn't see any stretch. I didn't see any range.
You could even say the same for Christoph Waltz. You can. His character in a lot of ways is like the flip side of the coin to Hans Landa in Inglourious Bastards. He's the good guy in Inglourious Bastards. He's the bad guy, but it's kind of the same thing. He has this ego thing going on. He has to prove that he's smarter than everybody else, and that's how he is in Django Unchained as well. So in a weird way, he's played the same character.
Well, I think Christoph Waltz played it a lot more mischievous.
Yeah.
When he played Landa, he was a machine.
Yeah.
They didn't get fazed by much and did have an arrogance about him.
Yeah.
But he had a goal, and it was specific, and it was this, and he was just a constant machine. Where I felt in Django, he was the rogue. Mm-hmm. He was doing a lot of this convoluted stuff.
He was kind of playing, in a weird way, he was kind of playing Han Solo.
He was playing Han Solo for keeps.
Yeah.
And I think that's a differential. I thought he did a great job making that difference. And you're right, he's very similar, but also let's not. Sometimes we kind of blend them together because we've only seen him in two movies besides Green Hornet.
Yeah, well, it's also the script. Quentin Tarantino has a very specific voice, and when very specific actors work it, you can see the similarities, especially in a character like that. Honestly, I can give you who I think is going to win and who I think should win.
Go for it.
Well, Tommy Lee Jones is going to win.
Yeah, I think so.
He's pretty great in Lincoln. I could see your point, but there's a passion to the performance that he gives in Lincoln that, to me, hasn't been there in a while, except for maybe since No Country for Old Men, maybe, and even before. Even it's not like he playing the same character as The Fugitive. This is a man who loves the law, loves politics, loves getting into it. and yet he has a direct goal in mind that he is working towards, and he is very passionate about it. I think he's very, very good in Lincoln. But the best performance in this list, in my opinion, is Philip Seymour Hoffman in The Master. And that is a not easy movie for people to it's not embraceable in any way. It's definitely a movie for cineasts. Not cinecists, but cinema fans. But I thought he was fantastic in that movie, and the fact that he was facing off with Joaquin Phoenix, who is incredible in The Master, and he did not give an inch, did not take an inch. It was one of those really strong performance movies, and it's very nuanced. It's very you could see the change from the beginning of the film to the end, and you could see it's about a man who's trying to discover how to manipulate people, and by the end of the film, he's a master at it. The master, pun intended, I guess. Out of these, he's probably the best. It's probably the least likable performance of the five.
And least likely to win.
Yeah, and probably least likely to win.
I agree with you 100% that Philip Seymour Hoffman, that's what I liked about The Master. I didn't like the movie The Master.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of... It seemed kind of rambling, and it seemed that it didn't really have a goal in mind.
Right.
It definitely was a character piece, and we'll get to that. Actually, it's not even on the
list.
Well,
best actor, we'll talk about
it
too.
But Philip Seymour Hoffman didn't give his typical, and he never does. He usually changes, but you didn't see Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
You saw the character that he was playing, where, like I said, with Tommy Lee Jones, you were absolutely right. He is an impassioned Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
But that's what he was. He was an impassioned Tommy Lee Jones with a bad wig.
Yeah.
On purpose. I think a lot of people gave him guff for that. It's like, no, take a look at any picture of this man that he played.
Yeah.
He had a bad wig.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that would definitely is. I think Lincoln is going to have a huge night, and I think it's going to start with Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
We'll move on to supporting actress. With this one, I don't have as much familiarity with.
Okay.
We start off with Sally Field in Lincoln, Anne Hathaway in Les Miserables. See, I want to say less. I want to say less miserable, but you can't possibly be less miserable than anybody in that movie. Jackie Weaver in Silver Linings Playbook. Here's a surprise: was Helen Hunt in The Sessions.
Right.
Though it wasn't a surprise because she was getting buzzed, but it was a surprise because they actually nominated her.
I don't think she should be in this category at all. Actually, I think she should be in Best Actress.
Oh, okay. So and we always have that argument that sometimes they're supporting and they're actually Best Actress, and then Amy Adams in The Master, which is the one here that I'm like, really? Because I didn't think she was that.
I thought she was incredible. Actually,
I thought she was so subtle.
Yeah, it's pretty subtle.
It's too subtle.
Well, I don't want to say too subtle. I love that she was the manipulator behind the throne, kind of thing. And she knew exactly. If you haven't seen the movie, I don't want to spoil it, but she knew exactly how to push Philip Seymour Hoffman's buttons.
One particular button.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Yeah, which a lot of women have a tendency of knowing that's the one to press.
Exactly. I thought she was great in that. I don't think she's the best in this category. Actually, I think the best and the one who's going to win is Anne Hathaway.
Oh, it's by far.
It's by far. She's going to win it. And we can go down to everybody here. We can get to Anne Hathaway in a second, but I do want to talk a little bit about the others. Helen Hunt is great in The Sessions. She is so good. She shouldn't even be in this category. It's a Best Actress performance. It's a very raw performance. It's a very dangerous performance. It's got a ton of nudity in it. Okay, and it's not any. I mean, I got to give her kudos for just
She plays a sex therapist.
Yeah,
but it's what I'm not sure what the technical term for this particular sex therapist is. Sex surrogate.
Yeah, basically she's a surrogate for a gentleman who's had polio, played by
John
Hawkes, who should have been probably nominated too, but he can't move anything below the neck, and so he wants to have sex for the first time. So
something moves below the neck.
Yeah, well, he can feel things, just can't move them. But yeah, exactly.
Something.
And
it's typical guy. Even if you're paralyzed, that's still going to work for some.
Yeah,
of them.
exactly.
Some guys it just keeps working.
Yeah, but she develops a relationship with him, and he with her, and obviously he's going to fall in love with her because it's his first real relationship with a woman, and in a situation like that, you probably can't help it. It was just going to happen.
Plus, it's Helen Hunt's not a bad catch.
Yeah, exactly. But the way she kind of reciprocates back to him is really fascinating and really good. There's one particular scene in the movie where she's leaving one session where kind of a rough session, and she's leaving, and she apparently forgot something inside, and somebody goes to bring it to her, and she's like having a real breakdown in the car. It's a really powerful moment. It's just a couple of seconds, but it's really, really well done. It's a pretty great performance. Jackie Weaver, man, okay. She barely has a word in the movie. She doesn't talk hardly at all. She's very background in Silver Linings Playbook. I don't understand why they nominated her. There were other performances I would have done Emily Blunt and Looper over her.
Well, I would have done a lot of things from Looper that didn't make it. But usually supporting, I think we're going to find this with Silver Linings Playbook. I think this might be more of a campaign win for a lot of these nominations.
That could be very much.
Because for everything I've heard, and you've seen it, and everything I've heard from you, but also everything I've heard in general, is that, people like it, some people like it, but it's not an Oscar movie. It's just, it's a good comedy drama.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like it's a bipolar comedy, and I think people who have deals with these issues maybe will appreciate it more than I did. I mean, maybe have these issues. I have no idea. But it's a good, enjoyable movie. She's not in it much. I mean, she's in it, but she's not in it. You see her, she's a background character, and I didn't see the point in really nominating her. There were a lot of other supporting actress performances that could have been taken there.
Well, Judi Dench ruined it as 8 minutes. You got her an Oscar. She was great in it.
Yeah.
So I think they've kind of decided that it doesn't matter how long you're on screen anymore.
Yeah. Well, that may be true, but if there's Judi Dench should be in this category for Skyfall, because I thought she was fantastic. I thought she was great.
Yeah, there was definitely it was more of a M movie. It was more of a Judi Dench movie than it was a Daniel Craig movie.
You could even throw the argument out there she should have been nominated for Best Actress, but I thought she was spectacular in Skyfall, and I thought she should have been nominated for this. Then we're gonna skip Anne Hathaway because she's gonna be the last. We're gonna talk to her about last.
Last one would be Sally Field, because we've already talked about Amy, how much you loved Amy.
Yeah.
And how much you loved Helen.
Yeah.
Sally Field.
Sally Field was wonderful in Lincoln. As out of all of these people that are nominated, it may be the most traditional performance, but she really gave it her all. She sold the dialogue really well. She played off Daniel Day-Lewis really well, which is got to be tough. Got to be tough because he is embodying that performance, and to play somebody who's basically living the role, skin and bone, you're gonna have to bring your A game, and she actually does. She brings a really great performance.
Yeoman work, I believe, is that she really does. She doesn't overdo it. I mean, she's not fabulous, but you are up against Daniel Day-Lewis. You are up against a slew of great actors in every scene. There's not really, unless there's a scene by herself, and there isn't.
Yeah,
because I think there's a scene with her and Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
That's the weakest actor she's got to be with, and he's damn good.
Yeah, she has a little moment at the party where she's kind of one-offing with Tommy Lee Jones, and she gives as much as she can.
Well, that's Oscar winner Tommy Lee Jones.
That's a great part too. She's wonderful in this. In fact, I mean, if she won, it wouldn't be a problem with me. I think she deserved the win, but it's going to be Anne Hathaway.
It's got to be Anne Hathaway.
It's going to be Anne Hathaway because it's one scene, 3 minutes, and she lives a life in those 3 minutes, and you see it in her face as she's performing that song. That song from Les Mis it's never been done like that before. When you hear it on stage, and I've never seen the stage play, but I've listened to the soundtrack enough.
Actually, my wife and I saw the stage play for the first time about 2 months before we saw this, so I didn't like either one. But I can identify talent, and I can identify a well-done performance. That's the one thing about Les Mis, is that there's great performances throughout the whole thing, but it's Les Mis for me. It's like,
I love Les Mis, actually. I have issues with it. There are problems, but as a whole, I think it's a really great emotional ride. But her I Dreamed a Dream is spectacular. I mean, she really lives a life. You see it in her face. She tells a story with her face as she's singing the song. When there are certain lines in the song when she's talking about, how being with this man for an autumn, when autumn came, he disappears, and you could see the loss in her eyes. Her eyes are lit up as she's talking about him, how much she loved him. And then when he leaves, you could see her face deflate. I don't know how many takes they did that particular song.
That I know exactly what happened because I saw an interview with her. That was the 4th take.
Okay.
They continued it for 8 more hours.
Oh my goodness!
Because
I did not know that.
And that was on her, not on Hooper.
Yeah.
She wanted to do it better.
Yeah.
And it ended up being because he said, "Well, I got it.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable?" And she's like, "I can do better." And so they did all kinds of different things. But this
Yeah.
was the fourth take,
Yeah.
and so she nailed it when it was go time. Because
Yeah.
4 takes for something like this
Uh-huh.
is amazing.
Yes.
Um,
And even though she's not even in the movie a whole lot because of what happens to her character, because of that scene and because of her passion performance in the movie, she resonates throughout the entire film. You know, you're always thinking about her even when she's not there because she has such an impact on Jean Valjean and the characters in the movie. It's one of those. I mean, yeah, give it to her. She deserves it.
Well, here's why I think it sets it above. Not only it's because she can act, and it is an exceptional acting performance.
Right.
But then you got to throw in she's singing too. I mean, I know that's a different skill set, and it's not necessarily fair.
No.
But let's be honest.
It's
to do that and sing it.
It's
is-
the whole package.
Yeah.
You know, it's the whole package.
Which
And-
is why I think, whenever there's a true good musical, which is rare, but whenever there's a true good musical, they always get more props. They get more awards because it's harder to pull off.
It really is. It really is harder to pull off. I want more musicals. I love the genre. I think it's a weird balance. We can get into this when we talk about Best Picture, but it's a weird balance that directors have to do when they're doing a musical because movie musicals are not the same as stage musicals, and they shouldn't be treated as such. Should be treated differently. But we'll get into that. But she's wonderful. She should win. She will win. She's got the momentum. And that one's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, that one is pretty much. It's when you see it,
Yeah.
it's instantaneous. You're like, can we give it to her now
Yeah.
in the movie?
Yeah,
like we just
exactly.
stop the movie. She
Yeah,
was
because she's so
fantastic.
heartbroken in the movie, you kind of want to give her things anyway. You know, it's like just give her money or something. You know?
Well, we'll move on to more acting, and we're going to go with Best Actress because I think I want to talk about Best Actor a little longer because
Yes, sir.
that one I have strong feelings about too on several levels.
Yes, sir.
With you don't have to call me sir. I feel like you're older than me for one, and we're friends.
I say sir for everybody.
So Best Actress, we got Naomi Watts, The Impossible, which is the tsunami movie.
Yep.
For those you don't know, Jessica Chastain and I have to clarify, Zero Dark 30 because she's in every
Everything.
movie.
Yes, yes.
She was in every movie last year too.
Yes,
They're
she
not in
was.
2012, but in 2011.
Yes,
this
she
is her
was.
second nomination in a row, I believe.
I believe so.
Didn't
Yeah,
she
she was
get
nominated
nominated
for
for
Best
the-
Supporting for The Help. I believe.
I think so.
Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence for Silver Linings Playbook. Emmanuel Riva, oldest nominee in the history of the category at Amore. And Quivanzan Wallace?
I can't.
Kavane? Kvanza? It's
We should have researched this better.
no, it has. I could have researched it all day and rehearsed it all day. I'm not going to get this. The last name is Wallace.
Right.
She was 6. They make a big deal about her being 9 years old.
Yeah.
She was 6 years old when they did the movie.
Yeah.
Which is even more impressive.
Yeah.
Beasts of the Southern Wild.
Yep.
So let me give me who you think is going to win right off the bat.
Oh, it's gonna. There's a toss up between Jessica Chastain and Jennifer Lawrence.
Really?
I think Jennifer Lawrence has got a little momentum coming out of the Golden Globes. So does Jessica Chastain a little bit. But if it was up to me, between the two, it would be Jessica Chastain. I think she's amazing in Zero Dark 30. It's well again.
No,
We'll get
you
into
go
that.
right ahead.
Well, we can start let's start at Beast of the Southern Wild. I really love the fact that they nominated her, even though she's 6 years old. I don't think it was so much acting as just living a role in front of a camera.
I think they gave it to her because she did such a good job for her age.
Yeah, and
It's
she's
an Anna
really good in
Paquin
the
situation.
film. It's a really great movie, and she's really good in it, and it's a powerful in performance. There are moments in it that, she just breaks your heart. She's great. I mean, I have really no problem with her being nominated. I don't know she's definitely not going to win probably because the other performances, but I have no idea whether her career is going to go anywhere after this. I mean, she's just
She's too early.
little girl.
Yeah,
she's just 9 years old now.
She could either turn into a Jodie Foster, who
Right.
started at 3 and Oscar-winning, amazing talent, genius.
You're right.
Or she could become a Lindsay Lohan.
Hopefully not.
Well, like I said, it's way too early. You have no
Right.
idea. But she was. Again, I think you're right. I don't think there was a lot of acting going on. I think there was a lot of here's what you say, and she says it.
I mean, they may have set her up, and basically acting is pretend. And when you're 6 years old, you can pretend like anybody. You know,
Right.
that's your best age to be a pretender.
She's just a hell of a pretender at it for her age.
Yeah, and she, they put her in a situation, and the way the movie was shot, and the way the movie looks. I mean, it doesn't look like it was shot for less than $20 million because it feels like a bigger movie than it was shot for. But she's outstanding in the movie. She has a real heart to her performance. She can, like I said, she can break your heart at moments. And I really, really dug Beasts of Southern Wild a lot. I don't know whether or not it would. I don't know whether or not she would make the category in my book because I saw so many really great actress performances this year. But she's really great. She's really great.
Oh, and as we move forward, Emmanuel Riva. Neither one of us has seen this one.
I have not seen him more, but she's been in so many great French films. She's basically the Judi Dench of French cinema. She's been in a lot of great movies. I have not seen him more. I plan to see it very, very soon.
It's a very, very, very limited release.
Yeah, but it's directed by a guy named Michael Haneke. Michael Haneke's movies are capital R rough to go through. They are hard movies. And I've heard a lot about him more to know that, especially how I react to film, I'm gonna probably have to take 2 or 3 boxes of Kleenex to get through it.
And it's not a spoiler to say this is about. She's 84 years old.
Yeah.
So the movie is about, and her co-star is also in their 80s. It's the oldest couple. It's about dementia and how you taking care of someone in that situation.
Exactly. I think we've all had it in our families. I mean, I know my grandparents. It was with my father, and my grandmother was trying her best to take care of my grandfather, and he was seriously into dementia. And then then they both passed away. It's going to be rough to see. I want to see it so I can just have kind of I've seen all the films that way, but
it's also the experience. Sometimes these rough films you have to see.
Yeah.
Because they're important on the subject matter. Because I don't know if they've done a devastating Alzheimer's movie.
Yeah.
They've done, he's a little forgetful, or God forbid, my wife and I watched the god-awful anger management television show.
Oh, gosh.
And Martin Sheen is pretending he's got Alzheimer's so he can move in with his son.
Yeah, they treat the subject a little like it's humorous, and it's really not. You're right. They don't have a lot of films like that who document that, because you're watching somebody who you intimately know from in and out, and their personality is slowly just eroding away until it's just horrible to see. You don't even know. It's an alien that you're looking at. It's an alien person you're dealing with, and you have to love them because, they're your wife or your spouse.
And you knew who they were.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be. I'm certain that she deserves to be here. I haven't seen the film yet to confirm that, but
that's why I think those rough movies they're important to see, even if you don't like to see them.
Yeah,
I mean, because I think it opens your eyes to the reality when, on the off chance, something like this comes along.
Right. We have Jennifer Lawrence in Silver Linings Playbook.
Won a Golden Globe. I haven't seen this movie, but won a Golden Globe for it.
I have no problem with Jennifer Lawrence being nominated. I just have a problem with her being nominated for the Silver Linings Playbook. Okay. She should have been nominated for the Hunger Games.
Well,
I'm serious. She's better in that than she is in Silver Linings Playbook, in my opinion. She's good in it. She gives a funny performance. It's witty. It's got really great dialogue. But for one thing, the age range between her and Bradley Cooper is so wide.
They're about I want to say 20 years apart.
Yeah,
and they're supposed to go to high school together.
Yeah,
or something?
It's so wide, and I can't. There's it's like you're wondering, well, gee, look at all the work that Bradley Cooper's had done, or something like that. It's such a wide gulf to breach, that's difficult. But I flat out think she was just better in the Hunger Games. It was a more impassioned performance. It was more believable. She's good in Silver Linings Playbook, and I know why that she's there. I mean, the Oscar push put her there. But if it was up to me, I mean, I kind of want to squint and say it's Jennifer Lawrence for the Hunger Games. If you squint hard enough, you can see it's the Hunger Games instead of Silver Linings.
Silver Linings Playbook, aka we're giving it for a little type.
Yeah, exactly.
And Naomi Watts.
Naomi Watts in The Impossible. This is an interesting film. I'm not really a big fan.
This is the tsunami.
Yeah,
where she and Ewan McGregor are separated.
Yeah, and the family is trying to get back together during this terrible, horrible tragedy.
Tsunami in 2004, I should say.
Yeah, and I hate to say this. It feels so reductive to say this, but it's a white people's movie. There's hundreds of thousands of people died. Hundreds of thousands of Indonesians died.
And all we care about
common is this one little white family. They don't even have a role in it. There's hardly any speaking roles at all for Indonesian people. It's just we would have to be invested in this one little white family. And I understand in the movie, you're supposed to kind of put that aside, get involved with the characters and understand that. But I can't because, and I normally can in movies like that, but I kept thinking, they're tourists. They don't live there. They're going to be able to go home after this and go home to whatever house they live in and whatever.
They just gotta get to the
it's a
airport.
horrible situation they're in, yes. But when they hit the airport and they're out of there, even though the events of the movie, it doesn't quite happen like that. You watch it and you're going, well, they're going to go home to a better life. And these people are stuck there forever. They have to rebuild their entire lives because that's where they live. So it was a really hard movie for me to have empathy for, and her performance, even though it is a strong performance, that made it quite difficult for me to be empathetic for her.
And if you want to know what the rest of the world thinks of Americans,
yeah,
there's one American there with a cell phone,
yeah,
and he is almost a caricature jerk.
yeah,
He won't let them use a cell phone. We all got problems. It's like, really?
yeah,
I don't think that would happen anywhere in the world.
right,
Especially Americans, because we have Sandy, we've had Katrinas, we get tornadoes, we get disasters just as much as the rest of the country, just the rest of the world.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think Americans would ever do that. But yet, it's good for us to know that people think of us like this. Because we need to make some adjustments.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's I don't really have a high opinion of the film, and she does her job. So I mean, I don't think I would put her nominated here for this, but that's okay. But my favorite performance of the five, and the one I think should win, is Jessica Chastain in Zero Dark 30. And the reason I think that is because she's got a really difficult part to play. This is a character that is written strictly in the boundaries of her job. You don't see anything about her except for a few fleeting snippets,
like seconds
Yeah.
of her personal life, which are mostly involved with business. I
Yeah.
mean, with her
You don't
work.
see anything about her outside of her work, and she's obsessed with finding bin Laden, finding this courier guy. She knows she's right. I mean, and on paper, it feels like it's a cliche, but it doesn't play out as a cliche as it's directed by Catherine Bigelow, and we can get into it. But
I was going to say, I felt she did play a cliche, because I felt all she did was either she doesn't get emotional unless it's anger.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, she's a robot.
okay,
I felt she was she was the CIA's perfect woman, because she acted like a man, and when all she did to prove that was to get angry.
see, I didn't get that from her performance at all. This is one of the performances, when you have a women character in these parts, and they tend to be surrogates for men, they just don't have a penis. I don't think that that's what she was playing. I thought she played a genuine woman in this, who was really impassioned about her job, really a patriot. I love that the movie doesn't even go into why they recruited her. They just say, it's a couple of lines like, we recruited you out of high school, and she goes, yeah, and then it's you because she is your surrogate, she is your guide through this world that you're going through. You're not allowed to see anything outside.
But also, from what I've understood from interviews as well, is the person that she is portraying is not necessarily the best social person.
Yeah.
The most emotional person.
Right. And we don't even really know how much is a performance and how much she's basing it off the
Right.
person, because it's everything's still top secret. But I thought she's fantastic. I love character. I love that she embodies the character so much in her work that you have to really pay attention to see the personal stuff in there. And so you really watching her performance. I really dug her a lot. I thought I thought it was an interesting movie as a whole, as Catherine Bigelow made a film about a woman trying to to yell at the rooftops, give her voice in a world just dominated by men. And it's not even done in a way where the men are beating her down because she's a woman. They just don't think she's right. It has nothing to do with her sex.
I have to give you that. That is true. They don't, because in a normal movie, they would be like, they'd always have the boss who doesn't like her because she's a woman, or doesn't think she can do it because of a woman, and that's never the case in this. It's always, they just don't buy the information that she's got. And they just don't. It's not that she's incompetent. It's just that she's wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, there's a billion different leads and a billion different possibilities of how to catch this guy. The odds of you getting it right are zero, And but she fights through, and then they figure it out. Hey, and we can. I guess there's a wide discussion of Zero Dark 30 and the torture aspect and all of that we can definitely get into.
We'll talk about that at the Best Picture
But,
one, because I've got some issues on that as well.
Yeah, but personally, I am all for Jessica Chastain winning. I think it's going to be a squeaker, but I think, well, Man, it's tough. Who's going to say? I think Jennifer Lawrence has got the momentum when it comes to the Oscar politics stuff going on to win it, but I still think she may pull it out.
Well, I don't see anyone that rises. It's an obvious. There's no Anne Hathaway in this category.
Yeah.
So I really don't know. I'm going to kind of lean towards Jennifer Lawrence. Sadly, I wish the SAG Awards are tonight.
Okay.
That kind of gives me an idea of what the people are thinking.
She'll probably win that
because they're the same voting pool. The Golden Globes is really
50 guys living in Europe who gets tons of studio swag.
They're called celebrity.
Yeah.
They're just celebrity whores, is what they are. They are. That's all they do.
I'm not a big fan of the Golden Globes either, but
I think they're fun. But I mean, they don't really tell you.
It's fun to watch the show because everybody's getting blitzed.
But you can't tell who's going to win through that. So we'll move on to Best Actor.
Yeah,
which I think is
it's a
unbelievable. Well, it's a strong category.
Yeah.
For one.
Yeah.
And even with this strong category, there's a clear runaway.
Yeah. It's a deadlock.
So we'll use him last. We'll go from the bottom up here.
Okay.
Joaquin Phoenix in The Master.
Fantastic.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, fantastic performance. You almost don't want to know him after the movie because it's so raw. Such a razor sharp performance and so angry. If it's just jagged. I described in my review his face is made of moon rock and sorrow. It's just looks jagged. It looks like when you see pictures of people who went to war and you look at their faces when they're done and you could just see there's you could see a 20-year-old man in a 50-year-old's body. It's kind of there's something that there's a light in their eyes that's just gone because it was all innocence and optimism for the world. I'm not saying that people who go to war come back are just pessimists. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they've seen a part of the world that probably people shouldn't see, and it's killed a light in their eyes. Okay, he's got that down. You see him in the beginning of the movie, and you see this guy has been through way too much. He should be on a beach somewhere just living life. People should just give this guy money and let him live his life because otherwise he's just going to bring everybody down with him. You could see the pattern of destruction in his performance. And Joaquin Phoenix is just wonderful in it. I'm curious to see how much he drew from personal life to play this part.
Well, this guy's got double problems because he's not just got mental problems.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a very unique type of alcoholism.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he kind of makes his own stuff out of... It's almost like he's in prison his whole life.
Yeah.
And he's just making stuff out of things he finds in his life. He's not going to a liquor store.
Yeah.
He's rarely drinking actual alcohol from a bottle. It's always stuff made from when he was in the photography.
Yeah.
Or he was in the ship, just the weird stuff they find.
Yeah.
A lot of gasoline.
Yeah.
So that stuff is really got to rot your brain out.
Yeah, his liver probably looked like a raisin at some point. But it's a crazily great performance. And the fact that Joaquin Phoenix isn't playing the Oscar game, he doesn't really care about the awards. He might not even show.
He may not even know he's nominated.
Yeah, he might not. He was at the Golden Globe. So
he's that kind of guy. He's just kind of, there's something off about him.
Yeah, but he won't win this category. But on par with the rest of the performances, he's right behind Daniel Day-Lewis, I think, performance-wise.
He's definitely, like I said, this is a very strong category.
And I think it's really funny considering that Daniel Day-Lewis last Oscar was for a movie that was directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, and then Joaquin Phoenix did a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. So
yeah, but what was Daniel Day's last movie before that? 9?
I think it was 9. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was I don't know what that was.
Very good. But
that one I think I'm not. It was that maybe that was a second home movie for him, which I can't believe he would do. But
I don't agree with. I think that he made 9 because he wanted to see if he can do a musical, and it wasn't really his fault. It was probably the director's vision. But we can get into that. But then we have Bradley Cooper in Silver Linings Playbook, and again.
This seems like the safe one.
Bad. It's funny. He's got a good script. But I just don't buy it as a best actor performance. I've seen other performances this year that I would easily put in.
Give me one or two.
There's a guy named Dennis Levant for a movie called Holy Motors. So he's amazing. He's on par with Daniel Day-Lewis and Lincoln. That's just one I can think of. I know you're not a fan, but I think Tom Hanks in Cloud Atlas is amazing.
And people love Tom Hanks, so it's not like it's. I mean, he's usually a guaranteed nom.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of great performances. Jamie Foxx, Django Unchained.
Jamie Foxx,
he's terrific in that. But he's I have nothing against the guy. I like him. I've liked the movies that he's done.
He's the weakest of the strong bunch.
But he's definitely weakest of the strong bunch.
Now the next one is we got Hugh Jackman of Les Mis.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this right now. I hate Hugh Jackman. I hate him because he's good looking.
Right.
He's talented.
Right.
He can act.
Yep.
He can sing.
Yep.
No, he can sing.
Yeah.
He can dance.
Yep.
He can host.
Yeah.
Which is very difficult. So
Yeah.
that's almost on par of doing stand-up.
Yep.
He's unbelievably charismatic. And in general, he seems like in real life a nice guy.
Oh, absolutely. I've heard lots of things about Hugh
So
Jackman. He is probably out of all these.
He should not exist.
Yeah,
There's people like him who have too much in the world, and,
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
is the 1% when it comes to it comes to personality
exactly.
and talent.
Exactly. I loved Hugh Jackman in Les Mis. I love all the. He's so good. He's so good, and so many different performances he's done. My favorite movie of his is actually a movie that very few people have seen, called The Fountain, which I think he's just fantastic in that. I got no problem with him being in this category, that's for sure. He does a great job in Les Mis. I actually would like to see him do a musical now where he's a little more happier.
Yeah.
Maybe he should do Oklahoma or something. A little happier performance because he is in the dregs in this one.
Or the Tommy Tune Broadway play he did. Something where it's a little more modern.
Yeah,
I'd like to see him in that.
Just something, The Music Man. Let's get the Music Man going. Hugh Jackman and the Music Man. That would be fantastic. I'd see that. I would love to see him do a happy performance. But he's fantastic in Les Mis. Just fantastic. Again, like Anne Hathaway, he puts it in the face. You feel really.
Well, he carried that film on his back.
He pretty much did. Yeah. When Anne Hathaway's on screen, it's Hugh Jackman.
Like his character, he's able to lift large, heavy objects and drag them and save people.
So I mean, there's really no doubt he's fantastic in that movie, and he deserves to be here. Denzel Washington in Flight. I like the performance. I didn't like the movie. I thought that the movie has a really simple solution to a very difficult problem. It's very Hollywood at the way it ends.
Well, Zemeckis is not known for his in-depth movies. They're usually well done.
Yeah.
Highly technical.
Yeah.
As far as execution wise.
Yeah.
And they're enjoyable.
Yeah.
Apparently, this one's a little less enjoyable because
it's not a bad movie, really. I don't think they stick.
The themes were less enjoyable.
Right. Well, to use a pun, I guess I don't think Flight sticks the landing.
Yeah.
And
it's not Polar Express.
Yeah. No. What is really? But it's an all right movie, and Denzel Washington. I have a problem with Wade Ends. That's really what ruined it. But Denzel Washington is great in this movie. He is clearly a really good actor. He's clearly outgunned in this category by pretty much everybody. Well, except for Bradley Cooper. It's just that way, the timing and then the year. I mean, in any other year he might have been nominated. He may even actually won.
It's against type, I think.
Yeah. It's really I
don't mean that because he's played bad guys before, which is what he won in Training Day.
But
this is against type. I mean, because there's two Denzels that we know of. There's the good Denzel.
Yeah.
Who plays, the hero and all the things, and then we've got the bad Denzel at Training Day.
Yeah.
This one was kind of a weird mix in the middle.
And he has this thing about, again, this is all Hollywood gossip, but he always had this thing when he picks his roles that he had specific things he couldn't do in his movies because he had this image to protect, and then he breaks all of them in this, which is So I think that from what I understand, he doesn't do a movie where he's addicted to drugs or doesn't like to, and then he does Flight, which he's very addicted to drugs and alcohol, and
he might be trying to avoid some of the long-standing stupid stereotypes of leading black actors.
That might be what it is. And he kind of busts those stereotypes open, and he plays a genuine person in this movie. He's really good. I've got no complaints with him being here. I don't think he's going to win because Daniel Day-Lewis is a God god.
No, he's Lincoln.
Yeah, he is Lincoln.
There's never a second. I've never seen a movie where there's never a second where I go, oh yeah, it's Daniel Day-Lewis playing Lincoln. It's like, holy crap, they had a time machine.
Exactly. The way that he plays Lincoln is just outstanding. He plays him with such an empathy. He is a guy you would love to shoot the shit with, He not to use bad language, but
No, now we get to put the explicit tag on the podcast.
Right? Yes. He's awesome to listen to. You just want to listen to him talk and tell his stories. I love that scene where he's telling the joke with Ethan Allen, and the Secretary of War's going, "Not another story. I can't take it. You have to go." But he's such an enjoyable personality in the movie. You could have gone a different way with this. You could have made Lincoln, an iron statue, but he puts such empathy and humanity in that performance. The only beef I have with Lincoln is it should have ended when he walks out the door at that last meeting.
Yep.
They shouldn't even show the assassination. Well, they don't really show it, but they shouldn't even dealt with the way it ended.
Yep.
I don't think it needed to end like that. I think anybody who's ever read a history book better know how it ends.
Yeah.
If you don't, then man,
It did seem tacked on. It's like someone said, Steven, you need to tell what happened.
Yeah, you have to tell this story. It's it's sometimes, and Steven Spielberg has been guilty of that a lot of times in his movies, where he just doesn't quite stick the end. And it's just, you could stop the movie at 3 minutes before it's over. When you see Lincoln walking out down the hallway and going out the door, then you could press stop on your DVD player after you get the movie, and you'll be all right. If you see the next 3 minutes, it's not going to ruin the movie for you, but it's definitely
unnecessary.
It's totally unnecessary. But Daniel Day-Lewis is just so good, and the thing about his performance is, to me, that's the best thing about his performance is he's not only great, he lets everyone around him be great. He dominates the screen. He dominates every moment he's on screen, but it's a performance that lets everyone else breathe around him, and then it's a give and take between them that's just wonderful to watch. It's like there's a scene with Daniel Day-Lewis and Tommy Lee Jones in the kitchen of the White House, and they're basically outlining their ideas of what's going to happen after the war is over. And Tommy Lee Jones is going, "Oh, I'm going to tear the South a new one. That's my whole. They need to be punished for what they've done." And Lincoln's saying, "We have to have temperance. We have to calm down a little bit." And they're just never going to see eye to eye on it. And it's really great how Daniel Day-Lewis gives Tommy Lee Jones that moment, and yet at the same time, he is just dominant as well. It's really, I've never seen anything like it. He's fantastic. It's not that he's just playing the president. It's just one of those great all-time roles,
Oh, he did fantastic. And if he does not win, they will be screaming from the rafters, rigged.
Yeah.
So fix. It's impossible for him not to win.
Yeah, he's going to win. He'll be a third Oscar, which is unprecedented. No one's ever won 3.
Well, and if there's one guy
for Best Actor.
If there's one guy who deserves it, it's he did a hell of a job.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to move on to the Best Director, which I thought was a weird category this year. You want to talk about some snubs, and we will, because I think that's more of the story than who was nominated.
Definitely.
Because there isn't a person here who doesn't have a Best Picture.
Yeah.
But there are some other people who one in particular for me that should lift it above the others. We'll just go real quick. David O. Russell, Silver Linings Playbook. Ang Lee, Life of Pi. Spielberg for Lincoln. See, I don't have to say Steven. It's Spielberg.
Yep.
You can help me with his last name.
Michael Haneke.
Michael Haneke with a more. And then
Ben Zeitland, Ben with an H, a silent H, for Visa Southern Wild.
Now, I have actually, except for Amour and stuff like that, I was going to say I've actually seen all of these, but I'm so shocked at how many I've seen. And so we're going to say right off the bat that Silver Linings Playbook is probably the weakest in this category. Only because you've been complaining about everything else.
Actually, well, yeah, you could say that, but Ang Lee's Life of Pi is... I like the movie well enough, and visually it's outstanding. But I would actually take him out of this category because there's other directors who had better years than he did.
Well,
but yeah, David O. Russell is a weak link, and oddly enough, I would probably take Ben Zeitlin out.
Yeah, that one had
It's a first film.
It felt like a first film.
Uh-huh.
And it felt like a first film, indie film.
Yeah, and it's difficult when you say best director. There's a big weight, and I understand that you really want to judge the directing of the film. And as difficult as that movie must have been to make, considering how low budget it was, I will give him props for creating the world that he creates in that film. But Catherine Bigelow was snubbed. Quentin Tarantino was snubbed.
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck was definitely snubbed. I would have given it to one of those three before I would have given it to this guy. Nothing offensive. No offense. He did a great film. He made with the shoestring budget, he created a really great world. And I love Beasts of Southern Wild. I just don't think because we're only dealing with 5. It's not like we're dealing with 9. Even Wes Anderson from Moonrise Kingdom should be here,
And then P.T. Anderson's not in there.
Yeah, he should totally be there for The Master. I mean, there's so many great directors. Their films didn't get nominated for Best Picture, and they should be there. But obviously we have no problems with Spielberg. I don't have any problems with Haneke. I've seen his other films or some of his other movies, and he is really a great director.
This is more of a, for you.
Yeah.
It's more of a reputation. You haven't seen the movie. You just know that it's got to be.
He's got a
pretty
reputation
good.
that probably, and I don't normally like to judge by reputation. You got to judge by the work that they've done there. But I've heard enough about him more to know that he probably deserves to be there. And Ang Lee, I have issues with Life of Pi, but I really do like it. But it ain't no Brokeback Mountain, and Brokeback Mountain was masterfully directed, and he won for that. That's totally great because you should have.
They should have from the director of The Hulk. Comes Life of Pi. They should have done that.
I actually like The Hulk.
Well, I thought that it was okay.
It's an interesting film considering he made a deep philosophical psychological movie about a giant green guy who smashes things. So I thought that was fascinating.
But of the two that I know that I feel that were the biggest snubs, one at least I know that you think Catherine Bigelow was a huge snub.
Huge snub.
I do want to give her props for not making a shaky cam Hurt Locker movie again.
Yeah.
My wife didn't want to go see Zero Dark 30 because the last at Hurt Locker she physically got ill because she couldn't look at the scene because people think that if you constantly shake the camera you're building tension, and for a lot of people
I
you're just
can't stand it. It's my least favorite.
She did not do that in Zero Dark 30. So just on that alone, and she is a good, serviceable, above average director.
Yeah, I saw Zero Dark 30 the first time, and it wasn't like I thought it was. It didn't click. It did click for me. I thought it was a really great movie, but it really clicked for me the second time I saw it. And the second time I saw it, it's like, this is a masterpiece. She's managed to tell a story in a very journalistic kind of way, and yet there's a lot of. I love how Zero Dark 30 deals with the torture issue, which we can get into.
Well, we're going to get on that.
But I think it's a masterfully directed. I think Ben Affleck for Argo absolutely got snubbed. I think that's a brilliantly directed movie.
He made bureaucracy seem exciting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we know how it ended. It didn't end quite. It didn't end with the intensity that it ends with the movie. And I watched it again, and I'm kind of thinking, all this other stuff that's off, that the main characters don't see, the manipulations. This may all be going through Ben Affleck's head, his character's head, and he's thinking, we're racing against time, and so it's building an intensity at the end, that last push in the movie that really wasn't there in reality, but that's what movies are about. That's what movies are supposed to do. Yeah. And
you'd be surprised how mundane a lot of these exciting real-life stories would be if we actually filmed them the way they were filmed.
Exactly. And, and watching it again, I kind of pretended that this was all in Ben Affleck's character's mind, that he was thinking, we got to hurry up, they're coming, Yeah. And
well, that's the information that he's got.
Yeah, exactly. And Argo is just so good. It's leaps and bounds. And Ben Affleck is one of the best actor-directors out there. I don't care what anybody says. Gone Baby Gone's fantastic.
The Town
is fantastic. Argo's fantastic. He's 3 for 3 as a director. He's a better director than he is an actor,
and he admits that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where he kind of sabotaged his own acting career with things like Geely and
I am dying. I know because they just how they announced that J.J. Abrams was directing the new Star Wars film, and Ben Affleck was in the running for it. I want Ben Affleck to make a Star Wars movie. I totally want that.
He's in the running. He was in the running for Justice League too.
Yeah,
so
I'd rather him make Star Wars than Justice League. And there's episode 8 and 9. They're still coming. He could still very well be in that. Which
anything
I really
that gets
hope.
Him out of Boston.
Yeah.
I mean, Argo was the first one, but that was kind
and his next movie apparently is a Boston movie.
It is. Yes, it is. It's a Boston gangster movie.
Yeah, and that's okay. He's playing with what he knows. He's playing with what he knows. Gone Baby Gone's a fantastic movie. His
brother does a great job. As well.
And so The Town and Argo is just so great. The audience, when I saw it the first time, the audience just, when that plane takes off from the runway and the audience just erupts in applause, It's patriotic, and yet it doesn't ignore how we got to the point that we get in that movie. It loves America through the bad stuff and through the good stuff. It's just a great movie, and he got snubbed. And then Quentin Tarantino got snubbed. We don't have a lot of time.
But I think Quentin Tarantino, because we have to remember that this is a reality check. So we have to remember, in reality, not a lot of people like Quentin Tarantino as a person.
I understand that.
And that will affect his ability to get nominated at times. Because I think some of these nominations, and every year, some of them are because they really, really like the people. I mean, they're a person that they like who
Yeah.
did a good job, and so
Yeah.
they want to kind of reward that because nobody wants to vote for someone they can't stand, even though if they did a great job.
Yeah,
It does happen if the performance is so good.
It's like Joaquin Phoenix. You know, he didn't play the Oscar game this year, and he still got nominated because it's just that good of a performance. You know.
Yeah, but I don't think he irritates people.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
It's like
I think
Bill Murray hates the whole process. You know.
Yeah.
And I don't think he irritates people either, but he just does not like to play that Oscar game. He just wants to do his work, and if you recognize it, great. If you don't, you know, he'll go on to the next movie. You know, that's Bill Murray. But yeah, I understand that, and I can understand how Quentin Tarantino would be seen by some, especially somebody like Spike Lee. And weirdly enough, I think Spike Lee and Quentin Tarantino are closer in worldviews than they may admit. You know,
and in temperament.
yeah,
And in personality.
yeah, exactly. And I understand Spike Lee's reticence about not seeing Django Unchained, but the fact is, if slavery was as bad as it was in Django Unchained, then slavery was nothing, because it's not. It doesn't talk about slavery. It talks about slavery in kind of pop art terms. There's a movie out there called Farewell Uncle Tom. I may have talked to you about this before.
Oh yeah, that's the
That is like the most offensive film I've ever seen, and it's about slavery. And Django Unchained has moments in it that seem to be directly kind of inspired from that film. And I totally believe Quentin Tarantino would have seen it because he sees everything. But I mean, and I love Django Unchained. I think it's a lot of fun. I think underneath there's a rage in it about racism, and there's a rage about this perception of people, and how Quentin Tarantino taps into that in the movie. I mean, I've seen it 3 times now with audiences, and Django Unchained just gives such. I mean, people love it.
It's got a payoff.
Yeah.
It has a payoff.
Yeah, people love it. And, you know, yes, the violence is excessive, but, you know, have you ever seen a spaghetti western? All the violence is excessive. You know,
And my wife said that because the ending does get rather. I mean, I love it because the guys are shooting their own guys.
Yeah.
But when they're shot, it's like almost like tomato cans full of blood.
Exactly.
So it's so over the top that it's...
Yeah, it's not. There's no realism in there at all, and it's a lot of fun, and it also has a subtext to it, which in a weird way, Inglourious Basterds does too. Inglourious Basterds has a really good subtext to it.
Well, that's why and we're going to move on to Best Picture, which is why, and we'll start with, we've already been talking about it, which is why I was shocked, and I was happily shocked that Django Unchained was included, because I didn't think it was going to make it.
Yeah, well, it didn't. It didn't get finished until the very, very last end of it. You know, he had a rough time because he had an editor, her name's Sally Menke. She died a couple of years ago, and she used to edit all his work. And I will say that in comparison to his other films, Django Unchained editorially doesn't flow as well, and I think it's because he is dealing with somebody new this time. But I have no problems with it being there. Argo deserves to be there. Again, I haven't seen him more. Life of Pi.
Well, like I said, I'm not going to list them off. We'll go through it. So when we get to one, so Life of Pi, I have issues. My description of Life of Pi was 90 minutes of magic, pure cinematic magic, and 10 minutes of kind of cluster fumble.
Yeah.
They really almost discredited the 90 minutes of magic you just saw to a degree, because I think there was a way they could have done it, and they could have kept the same intent, but the way they did it bothered me.
Yeah, I understand, and it makes the whole film feel like it was a waste of your time.
Yes.
Yeah, and the way he ends it, there's a way they could have done it. I think that, and I understand that from what I understand, the book is very similar in the way it ends, and there's a way they could have done it that would have been more cinematic, I guess.
More satisfying too. Plus,
yeah.
and also wouldn't have been as definitive.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. Is that they tried to make it. They tried to make it seem like, well, did it or didn't it? Or
Yeah,
what? But then they actually make it really definitive.
Yeah,
where
well,
instead of losing the mystery.
The problem that I have with the Life of Pi is kind of the problem that I have with far right religious people, and is like, you'll never get it. You don't understand. Yeah, that's it.
That's true. The arrogance of
there's an arrogance to the way it ends.
The arrogance of your ignorance.
Yeah. There's an arrogance to the way it ends. It's like, well, you're not one of us. You know, you're alien from me, so you'll never understand. You know,
we're better, and actually, we're better than you because I understand it and you don't.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. There's an arrogance to it that bothered me. And you know, I've I'm an atheist. I'm not atheist, but I'm agnostic atheist, kind of depending on the day. But there is an arrogance. I do respond to movies in a spiritual sense,
And I bought into.
especially-
I'm not. I'm very neutral when it comes
Yeah.
to any of this stuff because
Yeah.
I don't know, and quite frankly, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thing. I don't care.
But the way they did it was, I was buying into it because I can go in there going, well, this is what kind of movie it is. It's going to be a spiritual movie, and then they try to incorporate almost every single religion.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
some way, and I kind of took that as okay. I see what they're trying to
You know
do.
what they could have done is in a way they could have. The guy was writing all this down and could have took to him and said, "Did this really happen?" And then the guy would say, "Well, does it matter?" Something like that.
There's two ways in my definitive. I'm not going to go because it would spoil the movie. But
Yeah.
There's two ways, and I'll talk to you about it after. They definitively could have ended it, and it would have been much better, and quite frankly, easier to digest and easier to film.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Again, it's. I wouldn't put it here, but there are moments in Life of Pi that really are magical.
oh, it's beautiful. So actually, it's one of the better 3D movies to see because it's very
Exactly,
bright.
exactly.
Normally, it's dark.
I love bright 3D when it's done right, and Ang Lee does it right. Les Mis Rob. Okay, I'll put it this way. I like Les Mis Rob a lot. I also have a lot of problems with it. The reason I have a lot of problems with it is I don't think Tom Hooper's a good director. I just don't.
Well, I can tell you one thing. They spent about $6 million of their budget just on nose hair clippers because it's all close-up. It is all close-up.
Exactly. Musicals, to me, a film musical is different than a stage musical, and I understand the reasoning behind it. Okay, I understand. There's an intimacy involved in a movie musical, especially with Les Mis, and the scene that obviously needed a close-up is "I Dreamed a Dream," which we got, and we got the camera, one take, one shot. No, you're staring at Anne Hathaway's face, and the idea that I got is that Tom Hooper loved that so much that he did it with everyone, and it deflates. It not only deflates the movie, it deflates that scene. The impact of that scene throughout the rest of the movie, and then everybody's singing like that, and it's like, well, that scene's very powerful and it's early in the film, and then everybody performs like that, and then you think, well, this isn't as important. I guess it's to everybody.
Yeah. It's the old, if everything's special, nothing's special.
Exactly. And if they had done it, if he had directed it as a musical differently, my idea of a musical on screen is that it's big. You see things that are not possible to see on a stage. Okay, camera angles, swoops, things like that. That stage plays just don't pull off. They can't. Because they're stage. So it's like a Busby Berkeley musical. They do insane things with hundreds of thousands of, or not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds of extras. With huge dance numbers and just totally crazy visuals, which I think is appropriate for a film musical.
With the exception of like 2 establishing shots.
Yeah.
Some of the exteriors.
Yeah, and
This was basically one of those Phoenix events that they show at the beginning of. If you go to a certain theaters, they one day only, and they show it's a movie, but they're showing a stage production, and it could have been easily a stage production they just shot.
Yeah, and you can feel they spend a lot of money on it. There's lots of sets, but you don't see them because the camera doesn't move around very much, and just sticks with the people. Now, again, I will not deny that scene with Anne Hathaway was shot totally perfectly and appropriately for the movie because it works completely from beginning to end, but you can't do that for the whole film. A lot of people don't like Russell Crowe.
I thought he was fine.
I thought he was fine. I thought that his voice was off because he is off. His character is off, and everybody else is singing it their way, and he sings off his way, and I thought it was appropriate. I thought he's fine. There's a lot of things about Les Mis I like, but the directing continuously undercuts the message and the power of the movie. There's really strong, powerful moments, especially towards the end, and but you can't tell because the camera's so close to everybody, and it needed to back off. It needed to be a little more. I mean, Spielberg would have nailed this. Spielberg would have completely, utterly nailed it. It would have been one of the most sumptuous musicals ever made. But Tom Hooper didn't trust his own vision. And I think that's the problem with Les Mis. I like Les Mis a lot. Their performances are fantastic. The singing's fantastic. There are emotional, powerful moments. I think it deserves to be here, but doesn't deserve to win, and it barely ekes in here. You know?
I think it's more of an accomplishment. I like the way they did it. I think everyone. It's really interesting because that when they first had Anne Hathaway in the first trailer sing, the internet flooded with, "Oh my God, she's ruining this! Oh, it's awful."
They totally missed. They totally did not get the context.
They
of what they were doing.
specifically made that 10-minute. I watched it several times in front of several movies. 10-minute trailer, like they used to do back in the 70s, where it was a behind the scenes in the theater, explaining how they had earpieces and they were doing it one take, and it was being recorded basically live as they did it.
Right.
And it just came out amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's why it's there. I think the
I
accomplishment-
love that he did that with
Yes,
the,
I
with
do
the
too.
singing. I think that's
He
fantastic.
shot it awful, but he...
He just should have just backed off. The camera just give him a little space.
But
You
I
don't
think
need to
that's-
see that much face hair. You can see the
But
little.
and that's the other thing. As a person who has facial hair and a shaved head, in the prison at the very beginning, everybody's got a shaved head and a 9-foot beard. Lice don't like facial hair. What's the point? I think that never makes any sense to me. But Les Mis, I think, was there because of accomplishment, because of the fact that they shot it this unique way that had never been done before, which
Yeah.
I believe will be the way they do it moving forward.
Well, I hope so, but I hope that they learn from the mistakes that he made and
Yeah.
back off. But
And then Lincoln.
yeah, Lincoln,
Spielberg.
What else can you say? Really, we haven't said it before. It absolutely deserves to be here. Spielberg has taken what would ordinarily be considered a not dry moment. It's a very passionate moment in American history, and he fills
Dry
it.
process.
Yeah, but he fills it with it's basically like The West Wing. You listen, you enjoy the dialogue, the script by oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because I know Tony Kushner. There you go.
I was going to say Tom, but Tony Kushner.
Tony Kushner's script is just wonderful. There's a cadence and a rhythm to it. You can listen to it. You don't even have to watch the movie and listen to it because the dialogue is so rich and the character performances are so rich. Lincoln, it's almost, you almost want to say, well, gosh, of course it's here. It's gonna, you feel like it's one of those cliche Oscar bait movies, but it's so good at what it does. It's so good at it's okay. Sometimes Oscar bait works. You catch it. Sometimes you catch the fish that you're baiting, and Lincoln's fantastic.
Well, I think the moment Daniel Day-Lewis and Steven Spielberg do anything, it's Oscar bait in people's minds because they're like, oh, they're only doing this because it's going to be a quality movie of some sort. The aspirations for that movie and the expectations of that particular movie are immediately heightened because of their involvement.
Right, and I wish. Lincoln's actually done fairly well at the box office, but I wish more people would see it because it's very present day stuff. We're still having the same fights, over different issues, but it's the same butting heads,
Well, the next movie is, and I'm going to say this about Lincoln as well. I think it's one of those movies that you need to see because it's important.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unlike Lincoln, my opinion of the movie, and this is Zero Dark 30, I think Zero Dark 30 is a relevant, important movie to see.
Mm-hmm.
I did not really appreciate it as much as you did. I saw it as like I said earlier, a very well-made, high-budget Discovery Channel docudrama.
It is dry. The first time I said it, when I saw it, I said, this is a very interesting, very good, very dry movie because it doesn't invest in a lot of emotion in the actions that are going on. But it also trusts the audience to see horrific moments like the torture scenes and come away with their own conclusions. Zero Dark 30 does not endorse torture.
Absolutely, I can't imagine anybody thinking that when you see it.
It doesn't endorse torture, for one thing, but it isn't clear either. It doesn't endorse torture where, how the best I can say this,
it does show the moral quandary of torture.
It does, but it doesn't put it in your face. It's like, this is wrong. You have to look at it and examine it on your own terms and how you deal with things in the world, and then you come with your conclusions. But it doesn't endorse torture. Now, the interesting avenue that the first real nugget of information in the movie is gotten from a prisoner who had been awake for 72 hours. Okay, which sleep deprivation, depending on who you talk to, is a form of torture. Okay, and they told him they did basic investigative questions, which any police officer would do, and they ask him, well, you told us this last night, and we were able to save these people's lives at this incident. And then he starts spilling more information because he figures that he's already broken. He doesn't even know he didn't actually break, And then they, from that information, they go on, and it wasn't. But at the same time, I don't know if that information would have been possible had everything that happened to him not happened to him. You know what I'm saying? It's ambiguous. The information that's gotten through the movie that leads to the killing of Bin Laden is gotten through fairly conventional means, fairly conventional detective work. But there is, there is a spark that's lit through the torture, and you can't deny that. It's part of it. It is part of it. There are so many people out there who are saying Zero Dark 30 does not endorse torture, and it doesn't. But
I think it
does
plays
say that some of it might have worked.
I
you
think they
know?
pretty much, like I said, leave it. They're pretty much indifferent to the
Yeah.
moral value of torture. I don't think they endorse it, nor do they say it's god awful horrible that you should never ever 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 do.
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously show why it's bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's not.
And that's got to be the worst job in Hollywood I saw in that movie. Whoever has to do fecal makeup.
Oh God.
That poor guy. Whoever
That's
has to
gross.
you've got to spend an hour in makeup just doing that. But I mean,
that's awful.
that's got to be. But
I mean, the
they
torture-
really show that what it was like and what it was, what people are going through, and allows you to make the moral judgment.
Yeah, yeah, and and obviously, the more the man is physically tortured, the more he won't break. It's strengthening. He's strengthening his boundaries. But at the end, you don't let somebody sleep for 3 days. What happens? Is that torture? I think it is. I think it's just because you're not beating him doesn't mean that it's not a terrible thing to do to someone. It's again, that's your perception of how you view things. I think it's a very dry film. I think it's almost in a weird way like David Fincher's Zodiac, where you're getting little nuggets of information through the movie, and by the last 30 minutes, which is masterfully directed, it's one of the those last 30 minutes of the assault on the compound is so fantastically well done.
That is, there was setting that up. I'm not real excited about. I wasn't really excited with the Chris Pratt and the scene where they're playing horseshoes.
Yeah,
because that felt like a Top Gun kind of moment, and it felt weird in that movie.
It did a little bit, but at the same time, I mean, those guys do that sort of thing,
Yeah, but tonal wise,
yeah, exactly.
It's it's 2 hours and 45-minute movie, and the last 45 minutes is the assault on the compound.
Yeah.
So for 1 hour and 50 minutes, we've been the serious, and then we got like 10 minutes of jokey Navy SEALs. We're quippy and happy and funny and yeah, we're gonna die, and we know we're gonna die.
Yeah.
We're not afraid to die, and
Yeah,
we're gonna do it
exactly.
with a knife between our teeth, and we're gonna say jokes.
Kind of.
And then-
I kind of got that, but
And
when
then they dropped it and went straight into the.
when they go into the compound, they actually are all business.
Right,
There's
that's what I mean.
Nothing about it. There's no.
that whole scene felt so out of place.
Yeah, I could see that. But in a weird way, because that's the scene that's in the trailer, a lot of it. So in a weird way, it feels like it's cut for a trailer.
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
You probably could have lifted that right out.
Silver Linings Playbook.
And I've said, but I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's Oscar quality. I would not have put it here. You take what you want. I've read reviewers who are ecstatic in love with it, and I don't get it. I don't. I've seen enough romantic comedies to know that there are better ones out there than this.
I've
And
heard
the
a
way
lot-
it ends is just weird to me. It's silly. The whole thing hinges on a dance contest, and I still don't understand, having seen it, I still don't understand how important this dance contest was to Jennifer Lawrence's character, except for the idea that this is her kind of saying goodbye to her husband. If you see the film, you'll understand. If you see the film, you'll understand that it's kind of a touchstone for her, and I can understand that part.
But
of
they
it.
didn't really sell that touchdown.
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, these people are so screwed up that it's hard to kind of link onto them emotionally.
And then finally, this is this is the true independent movie out of this whole group.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a shock that it got nominated. I did not expect that. But Beasts of Southern Wild is actually deserves to be here. It's a fantastic movie. It's beautifully shot, beautifully acted. It's just it's very independent. It's very unique. It definitely does not have a studio feel to it at all. And
No, it definitely it yells Sundance.
yeah,
And-
it came out of Sundance Film Festival just with bells on, and everybody loved it. And then and it got bought by Fox Searchlight, and it's a great film. It deserves to be here. And I don't think it deserves to win, but it deserves to be.
So
here.
so call it.
Well, I think Lincoln. It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be between Lincoln and Argo, and I say Argo because Argo's got a little momentum now. It's won some awards. It won not only Golden Globes, it won the Critics' Choice Award. Hell, it won the Houston Film Critics Association Award.
The most prestigious award they could possibly win in this season.
Exactly. There's no even reason to even have Oscars after that. But it's a fantastic movie. It's also a movie that Hollywood loves. Okay, it's a movie where Hollywood gets to beat the save the day. And who in Hollywood can't not love that? They get to be the heroes.
I think the fact that it's between Lincoln and Argo. I think Lincoln is weak as far as a nominee. I'm thinking voting wise,
Right.
Because it's pretty standard fare.
Uh-huh.
As far as directing, I thought Steven Spielberg did a good job of it, but it doesn't. there's nothing fresh in it.
It's the script. It's the
Yeah,
script that's
right.
really great about it. I mean, Steven Spielberg does a really great job of directing.
He didn't drop it. He didn't break it.
Yeah,
He made
it's exactly. You're being handed. It's like you're at the Super Bowl and you're going to win the touchdown. There's nobody coming after you. They give you the ball and you run it. Just go that way,
Yeah.
you know. And that seems reductive because it's Steven Spielberg and he does direct the hell out of it. But you know, he's given such a great script and such great performances. It would have been insane if he dropped the ball.
Right.
You know, I don't think it would have been. I don't know how he could have.
Right. I don't. That's why I think it's Best
Argo
Picture.
it has a harder job.
Yes.
I think Argo has a hard job, especially once they get to Iran, and it feels like they're going into Mordor. You know, it really does.
Here comes the fanboy.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, it really does feel like there's, you know, it's set up so much as a
Who's
dangerous.
Samwise Gamgee in this movie? That's what I want to know.
Oh gosh,
No, I'm just kidding. I wanted.
that I actually gave that some thought.
I was
you know?
as soon as I saw your eyes roll in your head to start thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I even acted the fanboy mechanism. But I think Argo's got a really good shot of it. I'm actually going to Vegas before this, and I'm going to put some money down on these things.
Okay.
So, I think it is a split between Argo and Lincoln because I think as we go through it, Southern Wild's too independent. Silver Linings is too much of a rom-com. Zero Dark 30
The controversy
is
is
too
killing it,
controversial,
yeah.
and quite frankly, from what I've seen, either people really loved it or they thought it was mediocre.
Yeah.
So Les Mis, I think people thought it was an achievement. I just don't think they liked it that much.
Mm-hmm.
Life of Pi, I think the ending is pretty much shoots that brains out. Amour is a wild
French.
card. Too French. Django. I keep saying it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say Django because Django Chained is too Tarantino.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it's too Tarantino. I don't think Tarantino is. I think Tarantino's going to have to get a Cecil B. DeMille award to get an Oscar. That's not in the screenplay category.
Probably true. Probably true.
So I think that's why I think Lincoln and Argo. If I'm thinking of this logically, how people are going to vote, I think it is between Lincoln and Argo, and I give it a split. I think it's 50-50. I think either one of those could easily win.
I think Argo's going to eke it out because, like I said, it's Hollywood saves the day, and they love that. They love that
And I
stuff.
think it might be a little redemption for Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were upset that he was not.
He should have been nominated for Best Director. You want to choke those people, but you know, obviously the math is not going to add up because you got 9 Best Picture nominees and 5 Best Director, so somebody's going to get knocked out. But come on, the man made that movie. I mean, it's a directorial masterpiece. I mean, I don't want to say masterpiece. You know,
A
masterpiece
feat. It's an achievement.
Feat. It really is because he builds the tension so wonderfully that last half of the film after they leave and he goes to Iran and you're on the edge of your seat, you know, and you know what happens and you still know. That's great directing, you know.
Well, this is a much better, a higher quality Oscars than it has been in the past. I'm excited to see it. I'm actually excited to see Seth MacFarlane host it. I thought he did a lot of people were upset that he was a little too blunt and too
Well, he's
crass.
insulted probably half of those people in Family Guy, so.
Well, I mean, even just during the introductions.
Yeah.
For when they introduced him, he had a little thing with Emma Stone, who's amazing. I think she's if she's does stuff live, she was great. It was really funny. It was really. I think it'll be a good job as long as he stays away from too many Peter Griffin impressions.
Right.
But before we leave, if there is one person nominated that you hope wins for something, what is it?
Gosh.
And it doesn't have to be what we've already talked about. I mean, like me, I know that Seth MacFarlane has a song nominated.
Okay,
so I would love to see that
okay.
only because if it's hard out there, being a pimp can win an Oscar. I
Right.
think Seth MacFarlane can win an Oscar.
Well, the one performance, or not performance, the one Oscar I really want to win is Roger Deakins for the cinematography in Skyfall. Roger Deakins is a master cinematographer. He has been snubbed for far too long. He's made such beautifully done films. He shot films for the Coen brothers. He did No Country for Old Men. And he made Skyfall probably the best looking Bond film of all time. The camera work in that film is astounding. He deserves an Oscar. He's deserved an Oscar for years. And if anybody gets it, I want him to get it for Skyfall.
Great. Well, as always, it's great having you, Alan. You're the 7th time on. You're the repeat. Oh, we love having you back. I hope to see you again for our little summer
It's spring
get
summer.
together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's everyone enjoy your Oscars.
That's the season premiere in the books. Thanks to Alan Cerny for joining me. You can read his reviews under the pen name Nordling at ain'titcoolnews.com. Be sure to go to the new website and leave feedback for the show. You can leave it for this particular episode, or you can go to the feedback page and just leave generic comments for me. Or if you want, you can email me direct, Craig at speakercraigprice.com. See you next week.